things turned out. A late afternoon rally turned big losses into small gains, as NPR's Emily Sullivan reports.
At one point today, the Dow was down over 500 points. That's almost 2%. But it roared back, gaining 34 points on the day, less than 0.25%. The S&P 500 also finished higher, up just under 0.25%. Today's volatility was hardly new. It's been a turbulent time for U.S. markets. Stocks tumbled last week as it became clear that Washington and Beijing remain far apart on trade, despite an agreement to revive talks aimed at averting an all-out trade war. Investors are also skittish about falling oil prices and some economic indicators that point toward a slowing of growth or even recession. Emily Sullivan, NPR News, Washington.
Taking a look at the rest of the numbers, the Nasdaq rose 51 points today to close at 7,020. The S&P 500 was up 4 points. Buyouts are continuing at communications company Verizon. Verizon today announcing about 10,400 U.S. managers have accepted voluntary offers from the company. That's on top of buyouts offered to upwards of 44,000 employees earlier this year. Verizon is looking to save money to invest in next-generation 5G technology. Many of those accepting the buyouts are U.S.-based management staffers. You're listening to NPR. China says there is no evidence to back up claims the technology firm Huawei and other tech companies pose a threat to the West. The country's foreign ministry spokesman is accusing the U.S. and others of hyping up security threats to create obstacles for Chinese companies looking to do legitimate business. The comments come as Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou was appearing in court in Canada in a resumption of a bail hearing. Meng was detained December 1st while changing planes in Vancouver. The U.S. alleges the company sought to evade U.S. trade sanctions against Iran and wants Meng extradited to the U.S. Former Nissan chairman Carlos Ghosn has been indicted on charges of financial misconduct. NPR's Camila Domonoske reports Ghosn was fired days after he was arrested last month.
Prosecutors say that Ghosn concealed tens of millions of dollars in compensation. On Monday, he was formally indicted after being held without charges for as long as legally allowed in Japan. Ghosn was a titan in the auto industry. He simultaneously led Nissan, Renault, and Mitsubishi, creating a powerful alliance, and he was revered in Japan for saving Nissan from bankruptcy. His indictment marks an astonishing fall from grace, and it's drawing attention to Japan's judicial system, which has a conviction rate of more than 99% and has been criticized for failing to respect the rights of the accused. Camila Domonoske, NPR News.
Supreme Court appears to be keeping itself out of the fight over an effort to strip Medicaid money from Planned Parenthood, notwithstanding dissenting votes from 3 justices. High Court rejected appeals from Kansas and Louisiana. Lower courts in both states had blocked efforts by the states to withhold money that's used for health services. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm Denise, your host. I'm talking to Shea Moyers. If you haven't been listening, you're going to have to go back and listen to the archive because you've missed out on some very interesting stories and some interesting information. And before we go much further, Shea, let's tell people how they can find you so they can look some of this stuff up and see if they have any questions for you. So what's the best way to reach you?
Honestly, the best way to reach me is on Facebook. My Facebook page is Phoenix Consulting. And so if you do the www.facebook.com, do /Phoenix Coach Consult, that is me. I also have a community on Facebook. It's Reverend Shea Moyers, Intuitive and Medium. And that is the spiritual community that I've established online. I'm also available by phone, and my cell phone number is 913-602-9746. I'm also available by email, and that address is Phoenix, like the bird and the town, Phoenix Consulting KC @gmail.com. And there are, but if you just Google Reverend Shea, if you do Reverend Shea Moyers on Facebook, it will come up. You'll be able to find me pretty easily.
And for those of you who are wondering, Shea is SHAE, Moyers is MOYERS. So that should make it very easy for you to find her. And you're booking new clients, right? Yes,
I am. That is something that does not stop. So I do see clients, And, I'm also available. I do private engagements as well. So, if you're having a private event, I do parties on a limited basis at this point in time, but I'm always up to, engaging with new clients. That's really the best part of the job.
You know what? That's one of the things that I tell everybody about being on the radio, being a tour guide, just being involved in the community, period, is meeting all the people, making new friends. So, yeah, I have to agree. What do you mentor people?
I do. Yes.
And the different aspects of.
Yeah.
What's involved in that?
It really depends on the person. A lot of times when that comes into play to mentoring someone, many times it's someone who may have, a lot of people are getting the calling to, step into service. And their gifts are, somebody may be a brilliant tarot reader, somebody may be a seer, somebody may be a brilliant energy healer. And, I do private mentoring, and it's very client specific. And I do that, I really try to keep that to a limited scope, just for the fact of when you invest in someone like that, you want to give them the best of your attention and energy. And so the biggest joy that I have is really helping folks kind of get off the ground. And that's giving them confidence. It's helping them, kind of find their message. It's also, helping them with practical business matters. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of people don't realize this, but this is a business, and I run it as such. And that's the practical side that a lot of folks they tend to forget. And so me being the triple Taurus that I am, it does come down to, you have to set your business up a certain way to do that. And so, it really does depend. Like I'm working with someone now, and, it's the ironic thing. What's really interesting is 15 years ago, she came to me for a reading. She was not reading professionally at that time, but she had started her, she kind of started her spiritual journey, and tarot was her chosen, medium of choice. Well, I ran into her at a local fair in September, and she was reading there. And I was actually there with my godmother. She has a jewelry design business that focuses primarily on this, the metaphysical aspects of stones and things like that. And she came up to me, and she stood in front of me, and she says, "Do you remember me?" And I said, she looked familiar. I don't forget a face. Sometimes names slip. But she said, 15 years ago, you told me that I should be reading professionally. And I am reading here this weekend. And come to find out, talking with her, she not only, she has studied tarot going on now for, 15 years solid. Brilliant reader. She's put the time in. But now it is about, really getting, kind of getting her feet on the ground and teaching classes. And I'm always telling people, well, don't be afraid to branch out. Go mainstream if you need to. There's another friend of mine that she's pretty well known on Facebook, but she is, we've been exchanging ideas back and forth. And again, it's just one of those things of, people come to me and, I don't charge for the mentoring, just for the fact that there's enough room for all of us to have a piece of the pie, so to speak. And I'm merely paying it forward because I was very fortunate. I had some very, very good teachers and mentors over the years. And so I really kind of just pay that forward. And when those, experiences come up, or when those opportunities come up, I tend to go with it. And, it could last for years. It could be, just email support, phone support, or whatever. It just really depends on the person.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's just like something I said a few weeks ago, that the right, you need the right medium for the right person.
Yeah.
Not every medium is for every person.
No, you're right on that one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it's the square peg, square hole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can force that round peg in there, but it's not going to. It may not be the right fit. So
yeah.
We do have a question in chat. It's from Carl Albertson. He has Caldwell County Paranormal out of Caldwell County, Missouri, and he asks, "What is the name of your paranormal team?"
It's actually it's Phoenix Paranormal. My paranormal team right now is comprised of several of my former psychic development students and a couple of trusted folks that I've, close friends that, I trust to go out and do things. We really have I did a lot of heavy investigating about maybe 10, 15 years ago, but really kind of redecided to launch it about 2 to 3 years ago. We're not super active. A lot of times I will assemble the team if, I've got a pretty tough case of, activity and things like that maybe we need to have documented or get to the root of, to get to the root of an issue to really kind of either end up, giving them tips on how to handle it. Or the thing that makes my paranormal team different than some is that we actually go in with the goal to clear a house. And some paranormal teams do not do that. By the time I get called in, we're a DEFCON 1. And so we're looking at a situation. And so, these folks are all ordained clergy, professionals. We have, I've got some great thing is when you work in IT, you have techie friends. And so I've got some pretty advanced technical people, but then I also have folks who not only can catch my back from a spiritual perspective, but can also maybe give me some additional eyes and ears on the ground and see things that I may not pick up on. And so that's kind of our mission. It's a pretty private, I don't publicly, advertise that, just for the fact of it's just something that if I'm feeling like I need some extra support, then that's when we circle up and go and do something.
It makes sense. I do agree. A lot of paranormal teams go in with the assumption that I'm going to go in here and investigate this. I'm going to find out if it's haunted. They're going to write up a report, maybe get back to people eventually. All the cases that we went to, we worked to resolution. That's the way it was.
Yeah.
Right? If we went someplace and it was out of town, we went with an arsenal ready to take care of whatever it was, so we didn't have to go back, because those people have to live there. We don't. That was the way I looked at it.
Mm-hmm. So. And that's how I look at it. I always, the one thing that, you obviously this is a paranormal show. So, a lot of folks now are, with all the, with the Ghost Adventures show and some of the other, shows out there that are very sensational. People think that that's how it is in real life. And they get, when they realize that it's not, I've actually had some people go, well, that's all that you do? And that's it? And yes, but, many times, have I had stuff fly off the walls at me when I've walked into a house? Absolutely. Have I encountered some pretty, evil things in my time? Yes. But many times my goal is, when working with clients that, are having poltergeist activity, or they're having, the house is definitely haunted, it is more about educating them, because many times when you're doing an investigation,